Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday edition of The Rundown. We talk about 2A news with conservative views. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast. And as we know, I do not do this program on my own.
From the East Coast, coming to you live. It's your co-host Mike Piwowarski. Welcome back to the program. It's Monday here on the Rundown. Just another manic Monday.
Dude, the manic, I don't even know that it quite gives it the appropriate feel. I mean, there was so much good stuff over the, now I say good stuff, news over the weekend to be talking about. Could not wait for us to get on the line this morning.
Yeah, listen, definitely good news. Lots of good news to talk
There
about.
you go.
Lots of newsworthy items. Let's say that.
Oh yeah.
So plenty of newsworthy items to get to. But my point is, listen, I don't care how great the news is to talk about. We still need another day on the weekends. We need a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fun day, Monday. We need a day in between there so we can get
We
some
need a fun
actual
day.
rest and relaxationing done.
Sunday, fun day, Monday. Yeah,
That's
the
it.
problem is though, man, you and I we're kind of workaholics. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
well, let's put it this way. At least I try to find a way to make some money during fun day. It'd be fun, but
Oh yeah.
but it's still got to put in work.
Yeah, no, I'm agreed, Craig. I'm the guy that when the holidays come around, that's when I go to work because I know nobody's going to be there and I can get more work done.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the
Yep,
truth?
yep, yep.
Well, speaking of that, let's go ahead and get right into it because we do have a lot of news. Now, um, you guys know, I'm sure, trust me, if you're watching this show, you know all of the news and the information stuff that's been going on with the NRA. You know that they filed bankruptcy. You know that their bankruptcy has been basically denied because they're going through all of this stuff with the attorney general there in New York, who's basically trying to tear down the organization because, well, we can't really have an organization fighting for our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Well, their court case, their like I said, their bankruptcy basically got thrown out, and so we could be looking at the end of or the NRA as well, at the very least, as we know it, right, Mike?
Listen, man, there's so much that we could do the whole episode on the NRA, but yeah, they've been taking heat from their attorney general up there in New York State, Letitia. She has gone after them for with Cuomo's consent, the governor up there, to go after the NRA, try and get rid of the NRA. The yeah, man, again, just so much. Trying to figure out which way to go. The NRA needs to be out of New York, and I'll say that. Listen, they've started this nonsense with them. Their corporate headquarters is in New York. Their physical headquarters is in Virginia. Both anti-gun, gun-hating states. And I don't know why they're still there, Craig. I said to you before we got on the air today that I don't know why 10 years ago New York didn't send somebody to Texas, file their incorporation paperwork, and open up a PO box, then go back to New York the next day and close down the corporate license with the state and forward the mail to Texas and be done with it. You know what? They're still the NRA. We've seen it happen all the time. If a car company moves from South Carolina the opposite way. I'm sorry, from Michigan to South Carolina. Guess what? It's still Chevrolet. Okay, just because they moved their corporate location does not mean it's not the same organization. NRA
Well,
has been the oldest the oldest civil rights organization in this
right.
country since right after the end of the Civil War. I don't know why they stay there and take the
Well,
abuse.
because Mike, for the very same reason that I think we recognize that the NRA does have a lot of work to do in terms of reshaping and rechanging its work. It has become a corporate entity that is more about promoting its brand than it is about promoting the Second Amendment, sadly. And that's not to say that they don't promote the Second Amendment. And in fact, they have done things and helped advance gun rights in a way in which no other organization could. But so much of what this organization has become is not about supporting that fundamental right to keep and bear arms. So much of it is about promoting and supporting a brand. And at one point got to a point where it was a political ideology. And it may be a political ideology that I agree with. I mean, you and I are both card-carrying members of the vast right-wing conspiracy. But in the end, that's not what the NRA is supposed to be about. The NRA is about the Second Amendment. And so I think we both can agree that there's that there's a need to change leadership, how things are done, what the focus of the organization is, and to try and turn this or keep turn this organization or make turn this organization back into just the massive fighting machine that it was. But here's the myth. The myth that the left has is that if the NRA, if they're able to somehow dissolve the NRA, that the millions upon millions of gun owners are going to just disappear and no longer be actively engaged and involved in politics. Let me tell you, that just ain't so.
Yeah, listen, hitting a couple of those points there with you. You didn't give him by name, but I'm going to do it. Wayne LaPierre needs to go, needs to be gone. 71 years old. You've stolen enough money from the members, to have your private jet and your girlfriend's apartments in the Bahamas, or all your different $10,000 different suits a day. Go, get gone. You should have been gone 10 years ago before any of this came out. You are not the NRA, and that's what's hurting the NRA now. And you need to go. We've had incredible people leave the NRA because you're still there and worked the way and worked the bylaws that you get to keep this power and have this. It's more of a kingdom now than it is an organization. Needs to go. Now the NRA does incredible things, Craig, and like you said, incredible civil rights organization, nation's oldest civil rights organization, been around since the end of the Civil War, but. Boy, oh boy! When it's time for some change. The NRA is the slowest to do it. Now they are minimum 6 million strong, and here's how I know they will survive, Craig. I run into people all the time. You and I are full time into the civil rights and into the gun world, and I run into people all the time and ask about the NRA, and they go, "What's wrong?" They asked me for a check last week. I sent it to them. Everything okay? They don't have a clue. 90% of the NRA members don't have a clue. They know that they make those donations to keep their guns. And that's what happens. They don't have a clue what's going on with the leadership.
Yep. Well, but and that kind of takes me to our next story. When you talk about it's time to go, and I've never been a fan of Maxine Waters, but I believe that amongst her constituents, there was a time in which Maxine Waters was actually doing good things, or at least her constituents believe she was doing good things for them. Well, now Maxine Waters has been around and become part of the Washington establishment so long that she has literally become a joke in many, many areas. And one of those areas has to do with, protection. Now, here's the thing. You guys know Air Marshal program was created in the wake of 9/11, right? It was a way in which to help make sure that travelers on flights were safe, on certain flights were safe, where there could be, potential for, terrorist activity. Well, you've got members of Congress like Maxine Waters, because she's one of the worst offenders, who are now utilizing them as basically private concierge and security when she decides she wants to go travel somewhere. So, in other words, she doesn't want you and I to be able to protect ourselves, but yet she wants, on taxpayer dime, she wants to have her own private security taken off of planes where they're supposed to be keeping us safe, and put on her detail in order to keep her safe while she goes and does and promotes her anti-gun BS.
Yeah, Craig, this wasn't just her using what's available to her. This was clearly an abuse of the system. The air marshals they've been around for years and years and years. I think before 9/11, they were actually at 33 sworn agents is what they had. Obviously, after that, President Bush, and with the creation of Homeland Security, I think bumped them up to about 4,000. So now you have one on every identified high-risk flight. Actually, you have two on every high-risk identified flight. But what's gone on is since the insurrection, Craig, since the January 6th insurrection, people like her have been calling over, going, "Well, we need the protection, we need the security." So agents have been coming off of those high-risk flights. Now, just like you said, Craig, they already have whatever private security they have. In addition to that, they have Secret Service available to them if there's an identified risk. And they normally have, this is what they always have when they travel, their Capitol Police. The Capitol Police travel with them on the airplanes back and forth to the destinations because they're federal officers. So they have the ability to cross those jurisdictional boundaries. Well, now they have, in addition to that, the federal air marshals. And Craig, this is not when she's just traveling back and forth from her district in California to D.C. Remember what happened when she said a few kind words about juries up there in Minnesota. She took them with them then.
when she was promoting violence. Well,
Yes.
I'm like, I'm sorry, but you don't get to have armed security as you go and promote violence and say
Yes.
we need to do more. I mean, people were already burning down businesses and were already trashing, and they were already attacking law enforcement. And now you're telling them they need to do more. And well, clearly, then you surround yourself with armed federal guards.
Yep.
What the heck?
Yep. That's what she did. She took even more protection with her. She knew she was going to go out there and stir the pot. So she took more government guns with her to protect her.
You know, Lord help me. I will just tell you and see this. And what's funny is that you won't hear this anywhere else. You'll see it on alternative media like Fox News or OAN or Newsmax, but you won't hear the mainstream media. You won't hear Associated Press or any of these other folks talking about this madness. No, instead, what they want to talk about, well, they want to talk about Dr. Fauci. And they want to talk about how basically how COVID has exposed or created or was caused by racism in these United States. That's right. Dr. Fauci, or Dr. Fakey, was speaking at Emory University's graduation, and Emory University, and he basically said that, I think, COVID exposed the fact that there is systemic racism here in these United States. And that's why more people of color wound up getting sicker and getting hospitalized as a result of COVID because of systemic racism.
Listen, I've almost had as much of Dr. Fakey as I've had of Maxine Waters. Can we get rid of this guy also? Listen, I got a taste of the spotlight, so I'm going to stand there forever and ever and ever, and I'm never going to let go. Craig, you and I've had this conversation, folks. We've all sat down and had this conversation around the campfire together. It has nothing. It has much less to do with race as it does with economic, status. There are poor. I don't care if you're white, Hispanic, Asian, black, and if I'm forgetting anybody else, I apologize. It has to do with economic status. You know what? When you don't have opportunities for for things that cost money based on your economic status. That's when it happens. I've worked the country all around from city to city, nasty place to nasty place, and I got to tell you that slums exist in every race, color, and creed. Okay, it has nothing to do with race, and it has everything to do with economic status.
Well, exactly. Like, for example, things like food deserts actually do exist, where it's hard to find fresh groceries or find good, affordable groceries. Quality nutrition in urban inner cities. But here's the thing. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with if a grocery stores, which, by the way, operate on very, very thin margins.
Yep.
If they place their stores in some of these neighborhoods, number one, it's high. It turns into a high cost venture because, number one, they often have very, very high regulations. Environmentally, a lot of these places are brownfields, so they have to go in and they have to clean up the brownfield before they can even put the store in there. And then once they put the store in there, you have literally, especially now in places like California, where shoplifting is basically no longer a crime. No one gets arrested for shoplifting unless they steal over $950 worth of stuff. You increase the likelihood that you're going to lose money because people just walk in your store and walk out with stuff. So guess what? These major chains who have the ability to buy products in mass, right, and get that mass discount, thus increasing their profit margin, they're not going to be in those places. You're going to wind up with a mom and pop store that's buying things at a much higher price and has a much smaller margin. And I know this is hard for some people to understand, but that's why that happens. And guess what? That has absolutely nothing to do with race. Right? Has absolutely nothing to do with race. Has everything to do with crime in that community, with the socioeconomic status in some of these communities. And just, I am just so angry that we are like, everything that is wrong with this country is all tied back in one way or another to racism. Give me a break.
Yeah, and again, Dr. Fakey, he's got to get it in there. Listen, I'm pretty sure we'll see this guy selling Mr. Coffee or something like that soon. This guy's just a joke. He just wants to stay in it and stir the pot, make himself relevant. Let me give a quick tip to businesses out there. There are businesses out there that want to help. Well, here's what you do. Listen, we know that your corporate people, your accountant people tell you to make charitable donations every year. Well, here's how you do it. Open up the facility Craig just talked about. Get yourself a nice little, you call it a farmer's market, call it, superstore farmer's market, whatever you want to do. Open up an inner city, put it up under a circus tent, do whatever you want. Sell everything for pennies on the dollar and write the entire thing off for charity. You know what? You don't tell anybody you're doing it for charity. Just do it on your filings like that, and you look like a hero in the community, and you've made some charitable contributions. Just there's easy ways to do this, corporations, and be a part of the community, and that's one way to do it.
Well, but the thing, though, that bothers me, though, about the whole playing the race card is that, first of all, whenever I say that, well, look, this is because of systemic racism, or this is because the white man, or this is because of the Republicans, or what that does is by placing the blame and the challenges somewhere else,
right,
it then abdicates my responsibility. And here's the problem: is that if it's all the fault of someone else, then how am I then empowering myself to make the sort of change that I need to make? Because in the end, the only thing I can really control is myself. So when you blame racism for everything, right, then what you do is you disempower the people that you claim are being oppressed. And you give all the power to those who you claim are the oppressors. And the fact is, it's just getting out of situation, improving yourself, getting things better just doesn't work like that. There has to be a level or a degree of accountability, and we just don't seem to want to have that, where we're going to hold individuals accountable. And you know what? A great example of that, Mike. Well, you guys remember the deputies that were released, that got fired as a result of standing down and doing absolutely nothing during the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School? You remember they got released, right? They got fired because of that, right? Because they didn't, quote unquote, or in my opinion, do their jobs. Well, guess what, Mike? They're getting their jobs back.
Yeah, listen, there's a couple of these officers there. Now, the officer that was at the high school, Peterson, the deputy, I actually think I looked at those tapes over and over, and here's a controversial opinion that he did nothing wrong. He was 25 years a cop there, and for 23 years he was taught to secure the perimeter. Well, there's a thing called muscle memory, respond to your training. That's what he did. And by the time he got there, he was able to hear the last couple shots because he ran from across the high school grounds. I don't have a problem wrong with what Peterson did. And he did choose to retire just to stay on the spotlight. However, these couple of other clowns, these 2-3 other clowns that got the call and got to about a mile away from the school and got their tactical gear out and then put it on. And one of them went the other way, decided he wasn't going to have enough. The other two took 10 minutes to put on a 5-second vest. And just decided they weren't going to do it. One was, I think Miller's last name would have been the first supervisor on the scene. And that's what you want. You really want in one of these situations as a supervisor to get there, take control and direct incoming units so they could affect the response and try and end this, try and end it as quick as possible. These guys stood there, went radio silence, and chose not to respond. These guys needed to be fired from their job. However, the liberals in the politics down there can't deal with that. There's laws that say how you have to respond when you remove somebody from public employment. There's a police officer bill of rights down there, and even without the police officer bill of rights, it's written within their cities or their counties or their state code down there of how you fire somebody. You can't just walk in that day and go, "You're fired." Well, guess what? 2 years later, 3 years later, they get all their money and back pay and vacation and seniority back because you screwed the pooch and you couldn't wait a day.
Well, exactly. You've got this law written. So, okay, you can't do it too fast, but you can't take too long. In this case, they took too long. And we all know that the bureaucracy there in Broward County is not run by conservatives.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. We all know that it's not. We all know that it's not run by conservatives. Mike, this was, by the way, I really appreciate that take, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it on the rundown, because I know this is your wheelhouse we're talking about. So I really wanted to have that conversation. But it just goes along with this long line of just, dude, can't we just hold people accountable when they mess up?
Exactly right. Let's put the individual responsible and stop blaming everybody else. And I think this country, whether it be race or whether it be taking responsibility for your employment, I think this country got to the point where we were close. We were very close to taking individual responsibility. And then President Obama came in and we had 8 years of it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Okay. Mm-hmm. From the day one, when a black professor got to ask for ID going into his house during an alarm. Since that point, it's been the police's fault.
But I have to tell you, you're a white man, so it is your fault.
It is my fault. It is my fault. You know what, Craig?
By default, it is your fault.
We're about the same age, so you and I remember different levels of the different level of racism that existed 40 years ago, 45 years ago, than exists now. You and I remember some busing. You and I remember, Craig, you couldn't date a white girl, and I couldn't date a black girl. That wasn't acceptable.
Not in Chico, California, where I went to school. That was not that you couldn't; it was frowned upon.
Oh, you could, but you also got your ass beat a lot. And it was something you had to make a choice on. And our generation before us, our parents or our grandparents, it was completely different. We even saw it go the opposite way at one point with affirmative action.
Right. You couldn't let the sun set on you if you were in some places.
Right. Then we had a level of balance, and I thought we were really getting close. And then, of course, we had Obama come in and set us back 40 years. And this is still the repercussions from that.
Well, but and that's the thing, though. And what gets me is that we act like, though, we haven't made any progress in, since slavery ended. And the fact is, we have. We've made significant leaps and bounds. But once again, we allow this false narrative to be pushed. And and the thing is that when you have folks like technology companies and the mainstream media helping to continue those false narratives, right? Like, for example, you have some tech companies and some of the mainstream media who believe that men can have babies. Now, unless something is changed biologically, men don't have ovaries, they don't have fallopian tubes, they don't have the working equipment to get pregnant, right? And a Spanish politician actually said this in a tweet, and Twitter suspended his account for saying that men can't have babies because they don't have the appropriate parts. They called it hate speech.
This is just, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Craig, let's be clear. It was a politician from Spain. Don't go looking around in Chico, California for this Spanish politician. This is somebody from Spain, and he was one of the deputy ministers over there. But I remember something in some class I took somewhere where I guess it could happen where you could temporarily place a child into a man, but then they'd have to implant a womb, and it didn't work. It didn't work, and you can't do it. But they're so tied up over there with we're all equal and LGBT and nothing against that at all, but they want to be so cautious and so inclusive of everyone that they said a man can have a baby. Well, yeah, I can have one after the woman gives birth to it, then hands it to me. I guess I could have the baby. But no, there are no ovaries. There are no uterus. They cannot make the baby inside them. And then even after that, you can't carry the baby. You can't just go, well, hold on, let's just open you up and put the baby in your belly and you'll be good and you can carry it. But no, it doesn't work like that. The parts are all different. I don't care what other surgical parts you had put onto you afterwards. You still can't carry the baby.
Well, and here's the thing, man. Look, if I'm a believer in you do you, I'll do me. If you believe that you were born a woman and you want to make the changes that you want to make in order for you to live your life that way, sure, then that's you and that's your choice.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, we have to say, look, science is science. And I'm not saying, all I'm saying is that you cannot tell me that I have to just deny basic science. I mean, these are the follow the science folks, right?
Yes.
You cannot tell me that I just basic biology, I now have to completely and utterly ignore the reality of it. And then expect me to take you seriously. It's when people do stuff like this. And here's the interesting part is I'm willing to bet you that there are many in the transgendered community who would look at that and say, yeah, you're probably right. And it's the woke media, the woke left, probably having nothing to do with being with transgenderism, that is pushing some of this madness. And what they don't understand is the people that they claim that they're trying to help, they're actually hurting because they are putting forth these crazy arguments that get in the way of what may be some legitimate arguments on their behalf.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, Craig. But to deny the science, like you said, that that's it. No, hold on, I got a text while we're sitting here, and I want to apologize. I think I might have said something incorrectly. It was a movie, Mike, is what it says. It was a movie where they tried to get a man to carry a child. So my bad. Okay, I guess I was recalling a movie and not a
With the
documentary.
one with Arnold
But,
Schwarzenegger where he got pregnant.
I think that's the movie I was thinking of, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just don't deny the science. Okay, you can't have. And Twitter, for
Don't
Twitter
deny.
how much faith do you put in Twitter, knowing now that they suspended a politician because he said men can't make babies?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. That's who we are now dealing with. And once again, we know we can't trust the mainstream media. And well, partially because we all know that they're biased. And one example that they're biased, I don't know that I'll call it an example, but I just call it an interesting irony that with everything that's been going on in Jerusalem and in the Middle East, and rocket attacks coming from, first of all, thousands of rockets being shot into Jerusalem from the Gaza Strip, and Jerusalem and Israel fighting back. Right, they're basically defending themselves and attacking those poor innocent Hamas rockets. I mean, just, I can't believe that they would attack the Hamas rockets, but that's what they did. And they decided to go after a few military targets with that. And one of those military targets happened to be, located in the same building with Al Jazeera and the Associated Press. Coincidence? What do you think? Maybe? Yes? No?
Well, I don't think it's any coincidence that AP and Hamas are in the same building. I think that's pretty clear. We understand where the AP comes from. We see their politics, and it's just par for the course. What's going on in Israel? And by the way, folks, if you don't understand what's going on over in Israel and the Palestinian territories over there, you need to educate yourself. You really do. And I know that the majority of conservatives stand with Israel, and the majority of liberals don't, which is really dumbfounding to me, since the majority of Jewish Americans are liberal. How they allow their homeland to be, rocked and bottled and shot, and and just, it's absolutely horrendous for me, and for people not to understand the rules of warfare. I had somebody the other day to me, Craig, over the weekend say, well, it should be an appropriate response. They launched rockets, so they should just make them stop shooting the rockets. Okay, you know how you stop shooting them, getting them to stop shooting the rockets? You take everything they own and you turn it into glass. That's how you win a war. That's how World War II was won. All right, that's how you do it. Total and unconditional surrender. You don't negotiate for peace because they had enough today.
Well, but the fact that they're in the same building, that it says one of two things, right? And to me, at least. The one is that they're actually, obviously, that the AP and Al Jazeera are so sympathetic to Hamas, they have absolutely no problem, no concerns being in the same building as them or working and spending a lot of time talking with them. If that's the case, I don't know that that's the case. But here's what I do know. I do know that groups like Hamas have a history of utilizing the innocent or utilizing civilians as human shields. We know that this is the case, and we know that in this particular case, it is not unlikely that they located in that building because Al Jazeera and because AP were there, because they figured, well, they won't bomb the media. Well, you know what? They decided, tell you what, we'll give you a warning. And that's what was so funny was I'm looking at comments from the head of Al Jazeera and they're in AP, and they're condemning these attacks or these bombings, right? And they say, thank God we were able to evacuate people. Well, guess what? They gave you a warning. They gave you a warning because they didn't want anybody to get killed. Now, let's be clear. No one got killed in this particular bombing because they did give them a warning.
That's Israeli policy. Listen, it's been that way because they want to keep the liberals of the world from objecting. Is that they give warnings ahead of time. Now, they did have some bombings over the weekend where they gave no warning because it was a critical target and they had to get rid of it, and people were killed. But guess what? That's war. You stand out in front of my street on the opposite side of my fence and you shoot into my house, I'm not going to petition for the world for you to stop. I'm going to lay waste to you, and that's what everybody else should be doing. Craig, quick little humor, little factoid. You have Al Jazeera that's also in the building. Do you know what AP used to be called under? Well, in some circles, AP used to be called under President Obama.
No,
it was Al Jazeera because he was the president. They called it his little news source, Al Jazeera. AP was Al Jazeera because that's how far they leaned to the left. April.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna go ahead and get into our parting shot. This is one that really kind of goes in line with our first story of the evening, and I think really speaks to kind of the relationship that we have with the gun owners have with the NRA these days. Um, it's kind of a mixed bag, isn't it, Mike?
It is. First off, we apologize for the very obscure Star Trek Voyager references there, but put any people in there you want to, and with the same message, and that's what it is. It's the NRA says we are friends of all gun owners, and there are those of us out there that go, no, hold on, not so much. Second Amendment Foundation, GOA, everybody else. These are the big boys on the block doing the heavy lifting out there. We've been educated, so don't put me under your corporate veil or corporate umbrella there, Wayne LaPierre.
Exactly. And it's not that we necessarily hate the NRA. What we want to see is we want to see it change into what it could be and should be. And, because we realize that there's a lot of good that the NRA does, but we also realize there's a lot of mess there that needs to be cleaned up and fixed up. And I will just say this to those of you on the left who think that taking out the NRA, look, the NRA is not too big to fail. And I promise you, all of that energy, all of those resources, all of that money is not going to just disappear. You take out the NRA, trust me, it will reappear. Look at groups like Second Amendment Foundation, GOA, Firearms Policy Coalition. There are plenty of groups out there that will fill the void. And in my opinion, many of those organizations, with what they have, are much more effective and much more committed to the fundamentals of the Second Amendment than I think you understand or are prepared for.
And if you've ever played high school sports, you can hear your coach yelling at you now. It's about the fundamentals. Come on, let's do the fundies. Fundamentals.
It's about the fundamentals. By the way, before we part today, I just want to make sure I want to thank our sponsor, Grid Defense. Make sure follow their link in the description to this video. Go there. Purchase their products. They're phenomenal products, and they're also giving away. Remember that we were going to have Open Mind Friday. Feedback Fridays. We're going to have Feedback Fridays, and we're going to be giving away. What's that you got there, Mike?
That would be an 80% piece of aluminum. But wait, there's more. Due to the popular demand of these 80% aluminum pieces of metal, another sponsor will be coming with us this week because they want to see them have a mate. So you'll see more about that as the week goes on. But come this Friday for Feedback Friday on Freebie Friday, this is what you're going to be getting.
Right. So Feedback Friday is quickly turning into Freebie Friday. So here's what we need you guys to do, folks. We need you to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Dude, our YouTube channel is still not above 100. If you like watching these on YouTube and you want to actually be a part of the feedback we do on Fridays, if you want us to do it on YouTube as well, we got to get to 100 subscribers. So we can't do that without y'all. We can't make you subscribe, but we can give you stuff if you do.
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Again, congratulations to Jeff Brown for winning one of these last week, for taking part in that. And we'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
Yes. See you tomorrow. Hello.